about if you should dig up your dahlia tuber clumps or keep them in the ground, and also show you how to divide a clump of dahlia tubers. If you live in an area of a climate that gets freezing temperatures, you should dig up your tubers each year, because if they freeze, they will turn to mush. If you have well draining soil and live in an area that does not get a lot of rain, it's fine to leave your tubers in the ground. Here in Mendocino, we get a lot of rain. About 50 inches is normal for us, and a lot of home gardeners do leave their tubers or dahlias in the ground. Some will come up each year, and some will not, just because of the amount of rain and moisture we get, and depending upon the soil, they can rot in the ground with too much moisture. So if you live in an area that doesn't get a lot of moisture, you have well draining soil, you can leave your dahlias in the ground. You would just want to cut them to about ground level, your stalks, once they are done for the season, and they'll come back up for you the next season. Eventually, you will want to dig up your tubers and divide them, because the dahlias will thrive best if they are divided about every couple years. So when you dig up your dahlia tubers, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a clump like this. This is after one season. We planted one of these tubers in the ground in March here in Mendocino, and then this is what we dug up. Is you get a fairly good size clump of tubers. And as you can see, after a couple years or so, it will grow, and then it is good to divide it, because it will just be better for your plant. So I'm going to show you next how to divide your clump if you decide to dig. If you do dig up your tubers, it's important to keep them in a temperature of 40 to 45 degrees and a very high humidity level. It really, again, depends on where you live and your climate. Here in Mendocino, we are a very moist environment and air, and we keep our tubers in our cooler at about 40 degrees. We pack them in coconut holes and with boxes with air ventilation. But there are different ways of storing them. Some people use vermiculite or peat moss or wood shavings. It all really depends on how much moisture or how dry your climate is and what your temperatures are. Freezing, you want to keep them in about the 40 degrees so they're in a dormant state without being frozen. So it's really good to think about your environment and what will work best for you. It is difficult once you dig them up sometimes to keep them, to store them without drying them out or them molding. So that's why, if you can keep them in the ground, it may be best, and you could dig them up in the springtime, divide them, and then replant them, and they'll if you want to, divide them up just so that they are not as big of a clump. Another way of keeping them in is if you can put them in a pot, dig them up and put them in a pot, and keep them out, pull them out of the rain just for the winter season. Okay, so with a tuber clump, what you're going to be looking for are the eyes. These eyes are very visible. You can see they're like it's growth bud coming up from the crown. The most important, what you need for every single viable tuber, is to have the body of the tuber, an intact neck, and then an eye. And the eyes are always going to be on the crown, or where they are attached to the stem. And you will not find an eye down here in the body. It could be a bump, but it is not an eye and will not grow from there. The plant will grow from an eye in the crown. Sometimes your necks will be broken like this, and then that will not be a viable tuber for you. So you need an intact neck, a body of the tuber, and then an eye. And then you will have a tuber that you can plant in the ground and get a a gorgeous plant from. So we will start in taking out the ones that are the easiest to take off, and we're just looking for eyes and looking for intact neck. Now this one's broken, so I will cut this one off, and then I'm going to go in and take this one that has a great eye on it. I have some very great sharp scissors, and here at Earthspoke Farms we are very careful to disinfect all of our tools in between each cultivar or each clump that we are working with, so that we do not spread any type of disease or viruses to our other plants. So we're just going to get in here and cut until we get, I like to cut off these roots, and then there's a great tuber. It has the body of the tuber, an intact neck, and a very great eye right there. So you're just going to continue going through your clump looking for eyes and where you can cut and separate it from the crown. And here we go, is another one. Again, this one has 2 eyes, which is actually 3 eyes, which is great. It's perfectly fine. And an intact neck and body. This one has an eye, but it's a little small. You can try and keep it, but I know if this particular variety, we have an awful lot of them, and so I may not keep this one. But this is an intact neck, has a couple eyes on even this small of a crown, and a body. Here's another one. The eye is right here. I'm going to cut this off. And there's the eyes there. Here's, this one doesn't have an eye. This one's a broken neck. Here are some eyes, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to share it probably between these 2 tubers. I'm going to see how I can share the tubers. And then there's one right here has 3 eyes. So I have 3 tubers that I want to try and see if I can utilize these eyes to here. And I think it might be easiest to use my multi-tool to cut in between these eyes so I can share it between these 2. Make a cut. That tool is very handy. Sometimes the stem can be very woody and hard to cut through with these scissors. And this one has an eye. And then this one will have an eye as well now. So we're almost done with this clump. This one has some eyes. Just gonna take off extra crown that is not needed. And we've got a couple more here. This one has eyes down here. It's very close to the stem. This needs a little bit more rinsing off so I can see if there are any eyes here. This is the mother tuber. This is the one that was planted last year, and you can see that's a little bit, usually it's a little bit darker in color. This one is not that distinguishable, but usually it has a lot more of this growing out and has a different looking end. And we don't usually save the mother tuber because it's been tired from growing and producing all these tubers this season, unless it's a plant that I don't have that many tubers from and I really want to save every single one. And as long as it is not rotten and it's intact, I would save the mother. Otherwise, we just throw it away on a normal basis. So I'm going to rinse this off and see if I can see some eyes on these last 2 tubers. I rinsed it and off, and I can see that these do have eyes, so I want to cut them off. See the eyes there? And then here, cut off the tail. And so basically, every tuber except for the ones that were broken necks, all had eyes. This is a really great clump, and I got all of these tubers off my clump. And this is my waste.